So, good afternoon and welcome, despite this weather, but this weather is in line with the thematic of our event. We are delighted to have gathered such a group of experts from different fields and different levels. Multi-level governance is indeed the synthesis, the principle behind the EUSAIR, so we are glad to bring the issue of water management in this framework. It is not a coincidence that we decided to open with the greetings of our project coordinator, Stavros Kalognomos, and with our president, the mayor of Fano, Mr. Massimo Seri, the president of the Forum of Adriatic and Ionian Cities, but also with a representative from Uniadrion, Professor Fouad, sorry. He is the vice rector for scientific research of the University of Zenica, and he is here representing Uniadrion presidency, but also on behalf of the rector. So thanks again. Water management needs naturally cooperation and exchange of cross-sector best practices. So this was the perfect framework, the EUSAIR, to speak about it. And so thanks again to EUSAIR for the excellent and meticulous organization, and to AI-NURECC Plus project for this opportunity and this floor. So we cannot wait anymore to listen to challenges and opportunities of our territories. So please, Mr. Massimo Seri, on the floor.
Un saluto a tutti i partecipanti a nome del Forum delle città dello Ionico e Adriatico e un primo pensiero, un ringraziamento alla presidenza di EUSAIR della Bosnia e Erzegovina per l'ottima organizzazione e l'ottima ospitalità nella bellissima Sarajevo. Il Forum EUSAIR rappresenta un'occasione importante di incontro per gli stakeholders dell'area dell'Adriatico e dello Ionio. L'obiettivo generale della strategia EUSAIR è promuovere la crescita e la prosperità dei paesi appartenenti a quest'area, allineando su tematiche che riguardano l'ambiente, che riguardano l'economia del mare, i trasporti e il turismo, degli stati UE e non UE per una strategia comune. La tematica scelta in questo evento di AI-NURECC Plus ha voluto essere quanto mai attuale, indagando le sfide che caratterizzano la gestione delle acque interne e costiere e le soluzioni che diversi attori, municipalità, regioni, imprese, ricercatori, mettono in campo per una gestione quanto più intelligente, sostenibile e improntata ai criteri dell'Agenda ONU 2030. Una gestione improntata alla sostenibilità richiede necessariamente cooperazione tra questi diversi livelli. Il FAIC, Forum delle città, insieme agli altri fora, università e camere di commercio, lavora per favorire questo dialogo a multilivello. Possono svolgere un ruolo importante, strategico. Le grandi strategie senza i territori, che sono la spina dorsale delle nazioni, dei paesi, poco possono. E per questo è bene che EUSAIR abbia definito come interlocutori questi fora, perché aiutano il dialogo, aiutano in qualche modo a trasferire le strategie. È mia convinzione, come alcuni dicono, che le grandi strategie riescono ad avere successo. Il loro successo è condizionato per oltre il 60% dalle attività che svolgono i territori attraverso le autonomie locali. Tornando al tema di oggi, come è noto, gran parte degli impatti dei cambiamenti climatici sono riconducibili a modifiche del ciclo idrologico e al conseguente aumento dei rischi che ne derivano. e i disastrosi eventi che in questi giorni hanno coinvolto importanti aree dell'Italia, come molti di voi avranno visto dalle immagini televisive, sono lì a dimostrare questa criticità. Le risorse idriche sono fondamentali per uno sviluppo equo e sostenibile e la sicurezza idrica è un requisito fondamentale per lo sviluppo economico, per la produzione alimentare, l'equilibrio sociale, la competitività delle imprese e la tutela dell'ambiente naturale. Le sfide per salvaguardare il patrimonio idrico sono rilevantissime, comportano investimenti ingenti, una programmazione di medio e lungo periodo e soprattutto un radicale cambiamento d'approccio nella pianificazione territoriale. A questo riguardo, a conferma delle enormi sfide che ci troviamo ad affrontare, provo a fornire un quadro del caso Italia usando dati riportati da un recentissimo studio della Fondazione Earth Water Agenda, Water Economy Italia. L'Italia mostra dati climatici preoccupanti, ma ovviamente tutta la regione, con un incremento di oltre 1,1 di gradi della temperatura media annua. Dal 2000 il Paese è stato interessato da 8 gravi periodi siccitosi, con perdite comprese da 0,5 miliardi a 6 miliardi fino al 2022 e che in gran parte riguardavano il settore agricolo, ma sono colpiti anche settori della produzione alimentare, energia, industria, del servizio idrico integrato. Pensate, se su 34,2 miliardi di metri cubi prelevati ne arrivano a destinazione 26, con una perdita complessiva di oltre 7 miliardi di metri cubi. E sono 245 i litri pro capite al giorno consumati nel sistema idrico italiano, che rende l'Italia il primo paese dell'Unione per consumi di acqua. E se andiamo a vedere la ripartizione di questi miliardi di metri cubi utilizzati, il 47% riguardano l'agricoltura, il 28% il servizio idrico integrato, il 18% l'industria, il 4% la zootecnia, il 3% l'energia e, come si può comprendere, il settore agricolo è quello che ne utilizza maggiormente. Oltre il 50% di quello utilizzato è destinato all'irrigazione. Anche l'industria è tra quei comparti più idroesigenti, con un consumo, anche se non si percepisce, di oltre 7,7 miliardi di metri cubi. Nonostante l'elevato fabbisogno del settore produttivo, mancano sistemi di recupero di acqua piovana o per il riutilizzo di acqua di depurazione, a fronte degli elevatissimi consumi di ottima acqua di falda, in gran parte usati per sanificazione di impianti, cicli termici per il raffreddamento dei macchinari, lavaggio, piazzali, automezzi, per citare alcuni esempi. Un problema che rappresenta un serio ostacolo per una gestione efficiente delle risorse idriche e dato anche dai comportamenti stagni tra amministrazioni dello Stato, centrali e periferiche, e la frammentazione delle competenze. E come dicevo in premessa, il settore ha una forte necessità di avere una programmazione degli investimenti sul medio e lungo periodo. Anche sulla capacità di accumulo e stoccaggio il lavoro da fare è ancora importante. Rispetto alla capacità potenziali, per esempio, se guardiamo l'esempio italiano, delle 531 grandi dighe, i volumi che valgono 13 miliardi di metri cubi, i volumi effettivamente raccolti si riducono a 8,8 miliardi e la quota di perdita è accumulabile di circa 4 miliardi. Quindi potrei proseguire, questi sono solo alcuni esempi che ho voluto riportare, sui fenomeni erosivi. Potrei proseguire e citare altri dati sulle acque costiere e sui fenomeni erosivi, ma mi fermo qui per non esagerare, ma ho voluto trasmettervi alcuni elementi critici di contesto che caratterizzano il sistema idrico italiano, perché sono certo che queste vulnerabilità, se non tutte, almeno molte di esse, sono riscontrabili in tutta la macroregione adriatico-ionica. Sono sfide che interessano tutti, che interessano il nostro ambiente, il nostro territorio e la capacità di salvaguardarlo per le prossime generazioni. Per queste ragioni è necessaria una strategia internazionale e sono necessari momenti di confronti e collaborazioni come questo. I fora sono un riferimento per aiutare dal basso la strategia. Sono un interlocutore importante che conosce i bisogni e le sfide e hanno anche le competenze produttive e quelle di ricerca. Voglio portare un esempio di best practice, di come si agisce, come può agire un territorio, quello del comune di Fano, di cui sono sindaco. E grazie ai progetti di cooperazione territoriale europea, Asterix e Water Care, e fondi strutturali, il progetto Adriatic Sea Contract è finanziato per esempio con i fondi FEAMP, è riuscito ad aggiungere altre attività di ordinaria amministrazione di competenze, anche progetti più innovativi sul tema appunto della tutela delle acque costiere ed interne. Stiamo cercando di applicare pratiche virtuose per migliorare disponibilità e gestione dell'acqua attraverso il trattamento e riuso delle acque di pioggia, per l'irrigazione delle aree verdi dei nostri parchi e per aumentare la biodiversità in ambiente urbano. Sul tema della resilienza climatica, la particolare conformazione fisica della nostra regione rende più fragile il nostro territorio quando si verificano fenomeni atmosferici rilevanti e poiché il cambiamento climatico ha reso sempre più frequenti questi fenomeni, il prezzo che stiamo pagando è altissimo. Ma è da qui che dobbiamo partire se vogliamo garantire sviluppo e coesione. Gli interventi in materia di infrastrutture non possono non considerare anche i necessari interventi di messa in sicurezza del territorio. E questo vale sia per l'erosione delle coste, per la manutenzione degli alvei e dei fluviali, per il consolidamento dei versamenti montani, per l'approvvigionamento idrico ed energetico. Sono queste le questioni centrali che caratterizzeranno lo sviluppo economico e la coesione sociale dei prossimi anni delle nostre città, delle nostre regioni e della nostra Europa. I fora possono portare un contributo importante, come dicevo, di testimonianze, di dialogo, di competenze e di ricerca. Grazie.
I'm too small, okay. Okay, thank you, Massimo Seri. And now, Professor Ajika Dunic, more or less. I tried. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Dear ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, my name is Fuat Hajikanovic. My surname is very hard to pronounce, and please don't do that or even try. It's very difficult. I am in position of Vice Rector of University of Zenica for Scientific Research, and I'm here on behalf of our dear Rector of University of Zenica, Professor Yusuf Dorakovic, and I express his greetings and wishes for success in this meeting and further projects and results. I have 5 minutes and I will do some short sentences about that I'm very glad and honored to be here with you about this occasion and about these thematics about circular economy and aquatic resources, because me and my colleagues at the university, we are scientists, and the role of the universities are appointed already in this whole matter. Thank you for this year presidency of UniAdrian, and I also am very grateful to Forum of the Adriatic and Ionian Cities, UniAdrian Association and Forum AEC. I'm very aware of this very important issue about water, energy sources, because we at our university deals with that, of course. I've read some very nice, for me, definition of the circular economy. I will read it to you and the point something. The circular economy is a new economic model for addressing human needs and fairly distributing resources without undermining the functioning of the biosphere or crossing any planetary boundaries. That's the point. There is enough energy in the universe, at the Earth and the space surrounding the Earth. There is enough energy, but we are in position of not being able technologically for use the all energy, and we are at the peak of not optimized use of these resources. We are in the situation to be aware of how to use, how to optimize, how to manage some processes. And because of that, this session is very important. There are several pillars of circular economy. One of them is water, of course, and it's very important. How to use, how to optimize, and extract it at the sustainable rate, and resource recovery. Resource recovery. We know that the Earth is the perfect mechanism depending on time and resources. We are damaging now because of the very large number of the population and the industrial. We are damaging the mechanism of using and time for recovering. Imagine that there is a last man at the Earth now. After that, if there is a time, the Earth would recover totally for itself. We need the Earth. The Earth don't need us. But we are obliged to use the resources. Every man on the Earth has a right for living, for food, for water, for energy in basic levels. Over that, it's the economy, it's the market, it's the profit. The main role of the science is to help for us to live a long life, healthy life, quality life, and stability on the basics of the science. The role of academical universities to take a role in strategies and projects. The role of the states and the local communities to establish and manage strategies. University of Zenica has several departments and centers. Centers for energy efficiency, Department for ecology and environmental engineering, and we have a lot of, and of course, Department for renewable energy sources. We have a lot of experience, as other universities in our country and our friendly countries, Italy, etc., in the project roles. As a University of Zenica, we are at your disposal, and we are looking further for our mutual connections, projects, good ideas for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. And now our big brother, Mr. Stavros Kalognomos, on the floor.
Thank you very much, Melanie. Okay, I'll try to be brief because we need time for our exchanges. First of all, I'd like to thank the EUSAIR presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina, not only for the excellent organization of this forum, but also for the excellent cooperation we had throughout the presidency. And we hope that will benefit all of us and that this will help us to pave the way for future cooperation, further and stronger cooperation. On behalf of the Conference of Maritime Regions, CPMR I-NURECC Plus Coordinator, I would like to say a few words why we are here and what we need to take home once we finish our today's meeting. So, the I-NURECC Plus, the Adriatic-Ionian network of universities, regions, chambers of commerce, and cities. DG Regio directly funded initiative. Its main objective is to increase appropriation of the objectives of the strategy, to enhance the role of regional and local stakeholders and their contribution and their involvement in the implementation of the EUSAIR action plan. So, right now that the action plan is under revision, we also need to take from you your feedback, your input for the revision of the strategy. So, we are here to learn from all speakers and participants. So please do not hesitate to take the floor during the Q&A session. Something else I'd like to say, since I-NURECC Plus focuses on three main sectors, that means circular economy, our today's topic, sustainable tourism, and creative industries, with youth being a transversal priority. So, circular economy and aquatic resources. You can see how it intertwines, as Mayor Seri and the Professor Hadzikadunic said, that they intertwine with sustainable tourism, because if we don't manage our aquatic resources in a sustainable way, we cannot have sustainable tourism, or due to erosion issues, our cultural heritage may be in danger. Also, what we want to see, this year is the European Year of Skills. That means that what we'll say today can feed our next steps when it comes to skills-focused events throughout the European year, hybrid or totally online events. So we'll get back to you to see how we can already organize something in the near future. And something else I'd like to say is that I'd like to ask and to invite all speakers, since we're a bit behind time, to be short, to the point. We know that the presentations will be uploaded to the website, so you'll all have them afterwards. Just try to focus on the main points so that we have time for exchanges, because this is the added value of this kind of meetings. Thank you very much once again, the Bosnian and Herzegovinian hosts, for the great time we have here in Sarajevo and the overall organization and cooperation. And we are sure that after today's meeting, we'll get back to you with different ideas for different EU-funded projects, as you said, but something we should not neglect. Projects are part of the exercise. If we don't provide useful food for thought to the policies, we don't have projects, because the policies need our input to bring and to help emerge the different financing instruments. So they intertwine. It's not just about projects. We need the feedback to encourage, to enhance strategies so that we get more funding in the future for projects and so on. So it's a useful vicious circle, if I may. Without any further ado, I'd like to pass the floor to our moderator and wish you a very interesting and productive meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stavros. And now I would like to hand over our real moderator, Mrs. Elena Gentilini. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much to the welcome speakers. I tried to keep it short because we all know the importance of optimal water management. The mission on ocean and waters is a clear sign that we need to be cross-sectoral as much as possible. And this high-level conference panel wants to gather the latest information, starting from strategies and going down to mapping the challenges and also providing some possible solution as best practice. So talking about strategies, I'm really honored to welcome Eleni Atsiani, Policy Officer at DG Mare, Unit 3A3, Sea Basin Strategies, Maritime Regional Cooperation, Maritime Security, the European Commission. She has a background in research and experience in research and strategy development. And she will talk about the implementation of the new approach for a sustainable blue economy with the focus on the maritime regional cooperation. Thank you very much.
Dear Excellencies, dear hosts, dear organizers, and dear participants, it's a real pleasure for DG Mare to be here today in this very interesting workshop. Always a pleasure to join AI-NURECC workshops, and I will explain why. It's very relevant with our recent initiative on smart specialization. I will explain why and try to provide you some input of that. I would like to ask the organizers to upload my presentation, if it's possible. In the meantime, I'll take the opportunity to present myself, coming from DG Mare, as already said. From DG Mare Unit A3, we focus on sea-based strategies, maritime regional cooperation, and maritime security. And I'm contributing to the implementation of the new communication of sustainable blue economy. I'm focusing on the Mediterranean, and in particular of the Adriatic-Ionian region, and also in cooperation, of course, with other colleagues for the other sea bases for cross-cutting issues and horizontal synergies such as the smart specialization. I will continue so we can save some time until, okay, it's here, but I can continue with the slides. Anyway, we can pass to the second one. Well, we have spent a lot of time today, earlier, and yesterday to bring into attention of the participants these very, let's say, significant numbers related with the blue economy potential, the several maritime sectors in terms of employment levels, in terms of gross added value and other, let's say, indicators which we use to stress the significance of this sector in terms of the economy at the European level and beyond. If we can pass to the next slide, or if I can use a pointer so I can change, it's fine. Okay. So, blue economy sector, very significant in terms of economical potential. But looking further towards the sustainability, looking further in line with the European Green Deal, which has been announced in 2019, asking for greening the different sectors of economy, decarbonization, digitalization, and when we met COVID, started thinking about how to stress our efforts towards the recovery from the severe effects of COVID pandemic. Well, for the blue economy sectors, DG Mare has published in 2021 this new communication towards sustainability in the blue economy sectors. And for that, we have stressed our efforts in cooperation also with other services in DG Mare for the implementation, because with this communication, we try, first of all, to mobilize the stakeholders towards this sustainability, but also building on the existing initiatives of the European Commission, and by also complementing to other initiatives of other services, like, for example, the DG Environment, very relevant with what we discussed together today, and also other services of the European Commission, DG Klima, for example, or other services related with the sustainability and how we can address that. So we have started working on that, on the implementation, and we have focused on the cooperation, on transnational, interregional, cross-border, let's say, cooperation, because of the need that the different stakeholders from different countries sharing the same sea are facing common needs or are having a common interest. And in that case, cooperation is a key driver in order to bring together all the stakeholders to discuss for their needs and to implement joint projects. Speaking of cooperation, and as this workshop today is launched by a network, Blue Forum, a forum which is launched by the European Commission, in particular from DG Mare, is focusing exactly to coordinate, to establish, to help progressing on a dialogue among different stakeholders for discussing different uses, competitive probably the uses of the seas and on the coastal areas, but also on a coordinated matter and on an ecosystem approach, which is very well relevant and related with maritime special planning for this ecosystemic approach of the different uses at the coastal communities. Can we pass to the next slide, please? So with that communication, we focused, I will pass that very quickly, to the decarbonization, to the protection of the environment, focusing on nature-based solution, on sustainable management of different resources, of addressing the coastal resilience and the several challenges, like, for example, the climate change, on how we can be further, let's say, progressed on the responsible food systems. For example, a sustainable food system, a sustainable aquaculture, sustainable fisheries, but also on circularity, because circularity is an horizontal aspect in different sectors in order to ensure the sustainable use of the resources and the new business models in several aspects and several domains which can be supported by this circular approach towards the sustainability. Can we pass to the next slide, please? Where we can also a little bit be more familiar with very recent initiatives on behalf of DG Mare, complementing the previous, which is, first of all, this very recent new package on fisheries and ocean, by having 4 elements: the communication on the energy transition on fisheries and aquaculture sector, the action plan to protect and restore marine ecosystems, the communication regarding the common fisheries policy today, and also a report on the Common Market Organization for Fisheries and Aquaculture. Apart from that, very recently, we also updated, we revised the maritime security action plans and strategy, and also we have also stressed our efforts, as raised earlier, to cross-cutting enablers such as the maritime regional cooperation and the innovation in the concept of smart specialization, engaging what we call 4 parts of the quadruple helix: the public sector, the private sector, the research and academia, and the citizens. And here it comes the very, very related relevance and significance of your network, because exactly it brings together all these different components of innovation. And this is why I'm saying that it's always a pleasure for us to be active and to participate to your events. So can we continue, please? Well, speaking of cooperation, very, very briefly, we have discussed on that and presented in previous session several frameworks of cooperation around Europe and beyond. I will start with the sea basin strategies, which are under the remit of DG Mare. Just pay attention for the Mediterranean, the West Med initiative on the western part of the Mediterranean. Still remaining in the Mediterranean, of course, the EUSAIR strategy. And also, speaking of Mediterranean, the very, very significant in terms of cooperation, the Union for Mediterranean framework, with having dedicated priorities on, first of all, sustainable blue economy, with a ministerial declaration on that issue, and with thematic priorities on environment, on circular economy, or prevention on pollution, or on prevention of marine litter, et cetera, a lot of other priorities complementing this approach of ecosystem management of sustainability. Other also frameworks of cooperation in other places around Europe, some of them, all of them are including not only European countries, but also either Southern Mediterranean countries in the case of Mediterranean, or accession countries also in the case of the Adriatic Ionian area. So can we continue, please? Well, just focus now again on innovation, as raised earlier, a key enabler of the implementation of the new communication for sustainable blue economy, because it brings together the research towards a direct impact to the market and to the entrepreneurial, let's say, discovery for innovative projects, and also innovative products, and because it brings together the very significant parts of the quadruple helix to cooperate. So it has been addressed as a key driver for the implementation of the priorities of the European Green Deal and for the new communication in terms of the blue economy sectors. Coming to the next slide. We have worked a lot for that in terms of cooperation the previous years in DG Mare. Apart from enhancing this dimension in the mainstream programs, we also tried to engage together the different stakeholders either from public, private, research academia, or citizens, focused on fisheries, aquaculture, coastal maritime tourism, marine renewable energies, and blue biotechnology. And now we have a list of thematic priorities with an innovational potential. There you can see a lot of information regarding a lot of aspects of circularity, either in fisheries or aquaculture, or even in coastal maritime tourism. And these thematic priorities have been communicated with other services of the European Commission, like, for example, with DGRDD in respect of the programs of the Horizon Europe, or in respect of other calls which are in front of us and should take into consideration these needs. Actually, this list of priorities are very relevant with the smart specialization concept of a place-based approach, in other words, bottom-up approach, which is very important because it brings to the attention of the research and to the attention of the impact to the market the needs of the local level, which are the communities as reflected in the municipalities and in the regions as well. So coming to the next slide, please. You can see an overall of our milestones on the smart specialization strategies. Please pay attention, if you would like, to the last three with this color there on the borders, on the now opportunities for the stakeholders to create interregional partnerships on sustainable blue economy sectors. And also these partnerships, we will be, let's say, in a position to receive several services from DG Regio and from what we call the Smart Specialization Community of Practice, which has been launched very recently by DG Regio for providing several services like workshops, seminars, external experts support, carrying capacity, building seminars, etc., etc. Can we pass please to the next slide? And all this will be, let's say, happen under this thematic platform on smart specialization and blue economy, which is a very recently launched thematic platform with a cooperation of DG Mare and DG Regio, the fourth thematic platform of smart specialization, which also give this possibility to the stakeholders to further cooperate, create interregional partnerships in the concept I explained earlier, public, private, research academia, and also citizens. Can we continue with the next slide? Well, now coming more closely, let's say, to what we're discussing today. And let's borrow here a couple of information and initiatives coming from my colleagues in DG Environment. As you know, there are particular policies and very particular, let's say, thematic elements of legislation when referring to, let's say, environmental policies, and where circular economy is the cornerstone of that. I will very quickly pass these elements of legislation or of policies. I will refer, first of all, on the right, on the European Strategy for Plastics, which is including, among others, the Circular Economy Action Plan. But beyond that, can we pass to the next slide, please? Also, the Zero Pollution Action Plan, which has a specific reference on the marine litter reduction, and the Marine Strategy Framework Directive with specific descriptors, and actually now under, let's say, revision, which is also very well linked with the maritime special planning, because this is the way to monitoring the implementation of the maritime special planning directive in terms of the, let's say, supporting the descriptors, the levels which have been characterized by the descriptors of this particular Marine Strategy Framework Directive. Can we continue, please? A few more information on the Single-Use Plastic Directive, also very well related with this approach of circularity, and the Port Reception Facilities Directive, the directive launched by DG Move, but also very important when speaking of circularity, because circularity and circular models are also very significant in the case of ports, as we face ports as, how we call it, smart hubs, connecting the cities, the coastal cities, with the seas in front of them. Can we continue, please? The revision of packaging and packaging waste directive. European Commission has published a proposal for the revision of this particular directive, which is now underway. You can see a lot of information there, a lot of, let's say, details which are of the awareness of the member states in order to adopt accordingly their legislation, and which is very relevant again with the prevention of litter, with inclusion of a circular economy approach in several activities. Can we continue to the next slide? Just to highlight that microplastics, which is a challenge in several, let's say, ways of human activities, are included in all these policies, if I may say, all these elements of legislation or initiatives I also presented earlier. Can we continue to the next slide? Okay, just a reference now to our program, to DG Mare European Maritime Fisheries and Aquaculture Fund, with a significant budget for this period of 2021-2027, through shared management with the member states, but also through direct management, through grants which are launched by DG Mare. Can we continue? A program which supports with its priorities and its thematic domains the sustainable blue economy. We can continue. And speaking of direct management in the Mediterranean in particular, we have launched a call this year with two topics addressed: the sustainable transport and ports, and also the maritime clusters as innovative enablers of the implementation of the new communication for sustainable blue economy. Both topics addressing objectives where the circularity is very relevant to take it on board for a specific, let's say, project. Can we continue? Well, now the next slides, I will focus to Horizon Europe, which, as you know, it's the main program when discussing on research and innovation, with very, very high levels of budget and with particular priorities, many calls opening all time, and with a large portfolio of thematic objectives to be considered from the research community, but not only, because Horizon Europe now has a particular novelties, which we call missions, and I will refer to the mission Restore Our Ocean and Waters by 2030. You can see here the objectives of this particular mission. You can see there some priorities, some potential activities, expected activities, which are related with the objectives of this mission. And of course, where you can see the circular approach to be in several aspects very, very well placed and relevant. Can we continue? Another novelty of the Horizon Europe this programming period is what we call mission lighthouses. And for the case of the Mediterranean, the lighthouse is addressing the marine pollution. So definitely a lot of areas there for submitting proposals, including circularity as a key driver to address the pollution and to, let's say, suggest several aspects of research and several solutions and several, let's say, innovative approaches. Can we continue? Or just an idea on the calls, already 2 calls finalized, but still one ongoing this year, which has been launched last September. We can continue. A few more information there. You can see some elements relevant with what we are discussing. The communication of sustainable blue economy, it's taken into consideration. The action plan towards zero pollution. A lot of other, let's say, sub-priorities, sub-objectives you can see. Any one of you would be more interested. Mediterranean basin is, of course, there. And a lot of other information. We're going to continue. Some more details relevant with your discussions today in terms of the, that particular mission regarding eliminating, preventing pollution, sustainable circular blue economy, et cetera, until September, the deadline for this particular call. And we can go to the next slide. I think it's the last one. which is the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership. This is an Horizon Europe co-funded initiative partnership which is, let's say, focusing on highlighting particular innovation areas through its innovation agenda, focusing on very, let's say, emerging needs in terms of addressing several challenges. You can see there the intervention areas of their innovation agenda: blue generation marine structures, planning and managing sea uses, blue food, and also green transition of blue production. If you go into details, you will see a lot of relevant elements dealing with circularity in a variety, let's say, of sectors and of potential approaches. So I'm pretty confident that many of you who would like to be more, let's say, updated on that, you can find a lot of information there, very, very important and very useful. And of course, of the projects which will be after the call that this partnership has already launched, which we hope that will be very successful, a very, let's say, relevant with a direct impact to the communities, the local communities, and to the market as well. So I think that was the end. Just always, I always like to remind funding opportunities, and for your case in the Adriatic-Ionia region, the Adrion call, which is also ongoing. So with that, I will finish, and I will thank you all for your attention, and I will be here for any question or for any feedback at a later stage. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Antiani, for this throughout overview of the latest developments and also instruments that we have at our disposal. I'm now happy to introduce Mr. Fokion Zaimis, is Deputy Governor of Entrepreneurship, Research and Innovation of the region of Western Greece and CPMR member. Through involvement in several research and development projects and supporting industries and companies in innovation processes. It will talk about the circular economy and aquatic resources through the example of Western Greece. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests. Thank you for inviting me to EUSAIR's 8th conference. I would like my presentation to be also, thank you. I will try to be very brief and to the point. I will say a few words about our region and our initiatives. I come from the region of Western Greece. That is the west part of Greece, southwest part of Greece. Our capital is Patras. Next slide, please. As you can see, we have 3 regional units: Aitolokarnania on the north, Achaia in the middle, and Ilia on the south. Ilia is the birthplace of the Olympic Games. You probably know that. And we have a diversity of amusement and industry, from mountains to seas, bridges, etc. Of course, we are one of the key members and initial members of EUSAIR initiative from the beginning. And we're also a member of the new initiative about the macro region of the Mediterranean, which I will say a few words at the end. Next slide, please. Okay, the region, it is one of the largest water volume in Greece. Indeed, we are very happy that we have in our area a very big amount of aquifers, but also from lakes and rivers. It's actually the biggest deposit and reservoir of water in our country, and one of the biggest in the Balkans, actually. We have been working on an action plan for solid waste management regarding the best operation of the sanitary landfills according to the new environmental legislation. We have performed a series of hydrogeological studies, establishment of a new groundwater monitoring system. I would say that we face a lot of challenges. Some of that involve the human intervention, and mainly in the decade of the 80s, 70s and 80s. So we're trying to reverse some policies that did not go well on the 70s and 80s from the human. Now, today, we also have the challenge of the climate change, especially on the west side, where we have a very big problem with the coast, the destruction of most of the coast of the west part of the Peloponnese, which is a huge problem for us. If we lose the landfills and the sand dunes, especially on the west side, it would be a tremendous destruction of the biodiversity in the ecosystem on the west side. So we're working on trying to stop or decrease the amount of destruction per year. So next slide, please. We have a plan. We have proceed in a regional plan for the adaptation to climate change with a strong emphasis on the hydroeconomy sector. We're the first region in Greece to have been approved by the government of this plan with an estimated budget of approximately 193 million euros coming from a different of sources, mainly either from state or European Union money or from local taxes, which is probably the smallest amount. Next slide, please. We have taken the award 2022 as a sustainability ambassador, and my colleague Lamboros Dimitrianis, who is the Vice Governor for Environment and Energy, he's running this campaign, and I would like to mention him here as well, because whatever we do is a teamwork. It's not only the governors or the vice governors, it's a teamwork. And of course, the 650 employees that we have in the region, we all work in that direction. I would like to also to mention the University of Patras and my Yannis Kanakaris and his team, Professor Stefanidis, that I know that you work very hard, Dimitris Kokosioulis, who's with us today here, and his EPLO that work with us together. It's a team effort. Next slide, please. I would just say briefly some projects that have been running the last few years. Next slide, please. We've been working on a lot of, for example, an Interreg Adrian program called Harmonia. It's about harmonization networking for contaminant assessment in the Ionian and Adriatic Seas. We published a scientific report regarding the assessment of the environmental situation of the Ionian Sea. As you know, there has been licenses in the Ionian Sea for drilling, offshore drilling for gas and oil. It is something that is only on experimental phase right now. And then we have two big ports, the port of Patras and the port of Igoumenitsa, that we follow very closely. Patras is a port that belongs, it's the capital of the Western region. Igoumenitsa is the capital of Epirus region. We follow closely all the climatic change that are caused by these ports. But of course, we want the development of the port, but we're trying to do it in a more sustainable way, respecting the environment. Next slide, please. Community for Living Areas is a new project. It's a project that has to do with the quality of life in the Mediterranean area. I believe it's a 7-year project, and it works on tools and methodologies that empower local and regional authorities to embrace circular economy practices. I would just like to mention a few words about this. If you want to solve the problem, or if you want to at least face it and try to solve it, you have to involve the municipalities and the regions. Of course, the local communities and the citizens as well, but you have to start from there. You cannot solve any problem if any government wants to solve the problem without involving the local authority. The local authority is the first to tackle any kind of problem, especially environmental problems. Regardless if you have the financial resources or not, you have to start from there. And I believe that in the past, there has been a mistake. I've been following the European projects since the 90s, especially for East Europe. There has been some mistakes because when you try to pass on know-how and technology, in other countries, you think of your country, but you don't think of the country that you have to go. So we believe today that we should, when we talk about macro regions, when we talk about EUSAIR, when we talk about the Mediterranean, we have to work closely with local communities in any country, starting from the lowest level, that is the municipality. Then you have to build up a dialogue between the municipalities, the regions, and then with the governments. And then the European Commission should take these initiatives, these problems, and try to work and make programs about this. We should not export our problem to other countries. We should try to solve the local problems. So this is what we are suggesting now for the macro region of the Mediterranean. This program, Community for Living Areas, is working on that direction. We're talking about sustainable development. We're focusing on air pollution, energy mobility, climate change, energy transitions, and citizens' involvement. Extremely important that. We have to change the mentality of the people. You should not only vote for laws, but you also have to work with the people. If the people doesn't accept the laws you're going to do, you're probably going to fail. We cope with accelerated warming and waste and water scarcity, sustainable use and management of water. It's a very big problem. We may be the largest deposits of water in Greece, and probably one of the largest in the Balkans, but we still face some challenges. Our capital, Athens, is trying for years in a legal way to take most of the water of our area, to take it to the capital of Greece, Athens. They have failed because the local authority, the region, and the municipalities have blocked this in a legal way. You have rights. Citizens, municipalities, regions have rights. They have to focus on the people's needs and not what other areas need. So we have managed to keep this huge deposit of water in our area, but we still face a lot of the challenge about it. And of course, the problem will also be involved with nature-based solutions, living labs, foster collaboration, green living areas, community, civil society, EU entities, regional programs, etc. It is a program that we will look carefully about the legislation in Europe and in other countries as well, and we try to make suggestions, legal suggestions, on all levels of authority. Next slide, please. This is another project called Blue Phasma. This is a project that has been in the ending. It has already, it's on the ending. This year, I think it's ending. It's working on fishing and aquaculture sector. I forgot to mention that Messolongi, the holy city of Messolongi, has one of the largest sea lakes in Greece for fish and the Greek caviar, as we say it. One of the largest exporting in Europe. And our region is, I think, #1 in exporting of fish in aquacultures in Europe. So we have to consider the businesses that have invested a lot of money on aquacultures, but we have to also see how we will work together with tourism and try to work out a solution both with tourism and aquacultures. There's a big debate there for years and years. And also for the natural sea lake of Messolongian areas, where you also use it for fisheries. And of course, you have to keep it clean. This program talks about synergies, about capacity building instrument, et cetera, and it was focused in many countries. We had talked with 357 stakeholders, and in Greece it was in Messolongi, as I said. Next slide, please. The Blue-Green project, this is a project coming from the Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway grants. It's a non-EU project, so you have to also look non-EU projects. European Union is wonderful, they have a lot of money, but there's also non-EU projects, like the United Nations, like Norway. Norway has a fund that they put a lot of money for circular economy and environment, etc. So this project was talking about short-term restoration measures in the sea. Very important, try to reverse the negative, as I said, of pollution that happened mainly in the 80s and the 90s. addressing pollution, freshwater and wastewater management problems, focuses on monitoring systems and restoration methods, monitoring systems that will keep the place clean for a long time, knowledge sharing on use of geoengineering materials, remediation of ecosystems, and achievement of blue waters. And on the land as well, land measures in the hydrological basin, identifying green products, services, green tools for promoting eco-innovation, exchange of knowledge on the use of innovative materials, and analysis of the demand through new processes as an achievement of green in the hydrological basin. This is what is underneath. Hydrological is underneath. You don't see it, but it's there, and we use it to drink water, and also for farmers, we use water to water our fields. So we have to be very careful on what do you use to water the agricultural products. Next slide, please. As I said, this is the Messolongi area. Etoliko is near Messolongi. It's the nearest city. Yes, nearest city. It's actually an island. In geographical terms, Etoliko is an island, but it's connected with a small bridge. So is it an island? Is it not an island? It's a big debate. Geographically, it is an island, but we don't participate in the island policies of the Greek government. Sorry? Yes, I'm hurrying up. Next slide, please. We have working a lot on circularity issues in the Mediterranean. We have been involved in this project. We believe that we have to work 9 countries of EUSAIR, 11 territories, 114 SMEs. This is a project that we're trying to work on right now. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, I'll just try to close up here. Our vision for future projects is allocated zones for circular aquaculture zones in close to coast and in inland waters, triggering the transition to an inclusive and circular economy in aquaculture sector. This is something very important for us. A marine area where the development of aquaculture has priority over other uses and therefore will be primarily dedicated to aquaculture. This is what we call an AZA. Next slide, please. I will finish, try to not be late. I will go back to the macro region of Mediterranean. This is a new initiative voted from the region, the Committee of the Regions last October. We're working towards that to make a new initiative. AI-NURECC is wonderful, but we have to start thinking also to expand in order to make even AI-NURECC more important, to expand the initiative in more and more countries. AI-NURECC will become even stronger if we think further away and in more large areas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and it's really a shame to hurry you up because it's necessary to hear from the ground such an extensive experience. So I quickly pass the floor to Mrs. Yelena Stjepjevic from the municipality of Kotor. We were talking about local authorities and the head of office for international cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I thank the organizers for inviting me to this high-level conference. I come from the municipality of Kotor, Montenegro, which is located in the Bay of Kotor. And it's actually called Boka Kotorska. It's one of the most interesting natural attractions and the only fjord in the Mediterranean. And the beauty of the nature made him one of the 25 most beautiful bays in the world. And Kotor, our city, is specific in so many ways. 60% of cultural heritage of the whole Montenegro is located at its territory, but it also faces a lot of challenges, just like all similar coastal cities in the Adriatic and Ionian and even Mediterranean area. I would have to say a few words about the geological terms. Boka Bay is in the shape of a fjord. It's actually a river valley sunk and submerged due to tectonic activity. And due to its morphological characteristics, especially due to the specifics, it is unique. It's surrounded by steep limestone mountains. It is deep karst. It is important to mention when it comes to the aquatic resources, and the quantity of rainfall is the second biggest in Europe. There is a specific place in Boca Bay which has the heaviest rainfall in the second, actually. The first place is in Norway, as it was discovered lately, but in the recent decades it was the highest rainfall area in Europe. So, due to the limestone surface, it is permeable and it sinks. Therefore, this area is not rich in surface water. The greatest depth of our bay is 52 meters, and average annual temperature is 15 Celsius degree. As I have mentioned before, Kotor receives an average of 2,152 millimeters of rain, and most of it happens in the autumn due to the Mediterranean climates, while the summers are very dry and very long with the lowest rainfall, if any. On the southwest side, the sea connects Kotor with the rest of the world. Kotor has the status of a permanent maritime border crossing, and it is a port for international maritime traffic. The field of tourism, which is of great importance for the city's economy, especially in terms of future development, also includes nautical tourism. I mention it here because the port of Kotor, before and after the pandemics, records a significant increase in transport of passengers and ships of major world-renowned cruise lines that visit Kotor every year. The favorable location of Kotor, as well as the integrity and authenticity of the area, have largely been affected by the inappropriate attitude of human behavior towards the environment and also water resources. The area of Kotor is exposed to a greater degree to different influences during the tourist season. A large number of tourists in interaction with inadequate equipment and the construction of vital infrastructural communal systems more often cause greater pressure on the city. The environment and the need for fresh and technical water is greater in that period, so we can here detect the problem of the seasonality. Organized water supply in Kotor began a long time ago, but the water supply system that is in operation today was created in the 70s of the last century. The unique water supply system covers almost the entire area of the municipality of Kotor. Its system is connected to the springs of fresh water from the territory of the entire municipality, but it is also connected to the regional water supply system. The quality of water from local springs that are outside of exploitation is very similar to the quality of water from the water supply network. The physical and chemical quality is generally good, while the bacteriological situation in 90% of cases of those springs which are outside exploitations is unfavorable and the water is inadequate for use. But the problem is that these waters are rarely tested, some never, and yet they are sometimes being used, especially in the problematic summer period. There are several localities where this water is used, therefore it is necessary to pay attention to the total water resource in the entire territory of the municipality. Although the mentioned quality water problems are serious, they are not unsurmountable. As for the seawater quality, which is also important for the development of blue economy, the quality of seawater is measured by two aspects: quality of seawater at public swimming places and seawater quality for aquaculture. The water quality at shellfish and fish farms in the area of the Bay of Kotor has been implemented since 2009. The program is implemented by the State Institute of Marine Biology. Almost 85% of the total number of existing farms belong to the municipality of Kotor. We have 14 in total. Two of these farms are fish breeding farms, and it is the only allowed number in our bay, given its specifics and how close it is. It really resembles a Norwegian fjord, so we can only have two, and they are of optimal capacity according to the scientific opinion of the Institute of Marine Biology. So it is they need to be consulted before any breeding place is established in the bay on the impact of marine environment, while the mussels are favorable for breeding as they can clean the seawater, as we are aware of. So there are very favorable conditions that the Bay of Kotor provides for the breeding programs of marine organisms, favorable regimes of temperature, salinity, inflow of fresh water, amount of nutrition and underwater sources, as I have mentioned before. The surface water sinks into the karst, and sometimes fresh water emerges under the sea, which is favorable in this case. In the last few years, it can be concluded that all shellfish and fish farms in the area of Kotor municipality can be used for breeding of these species. I have already mentioned the problem with fresh drinking water due to salinization of springs. It happens very often, especially in the summer, when there is a great pressure from tourists, and for this reason, a connection to the regional water supply system is being made. On the positive side, we are the area with the place with the second biggest rainfall in Europe. Besides rainwater, we have also a lot of springs that would be used as technical water, if not for drinking. And this is where we can use, for example, circular economy models. There is also another example of good practice regarding wastewaters. I'm aware that the EU the directive for waters and wastewaters are two different ones, but we all agree that these sectors are interconnected and cannot be regarded separately. So in neighboring municipality of Tivat, we have established in 2016 a plant for treating the wastewater so that it could be safe enough to release it into the open sea. And still here, we also have the opportunity for circular economy models, for example, in not discharging into the sea, but purifying it several more times so that it can be used for like technical water, especially when we have a problem for during the summer when we need to irrigate the areas and we are paying a rather expensive price for irrigating the green areas from the regional national water supply systems. This could be used for circular economy idea. We definitely I'm going to be short because of the time, and maybe later add something in the discussion. I will conclude with this. The port and the sea and our geographical position, together with many springs, are our resources, but that resource is not inexhaustible. It has its capacities, it has its limits, and we have to look in the long run and how not to exhaust that resource. Finding an optimal path that will mean the preservation of resources, but also to create the possibility of adaptation to the circular economy models is a must. And in that sense, it can be concluded that the new strategy for the sustainable use of aquatic resources in our area is a necessity. Thank you all for your attention.
Thank you so much from the municipality of Kotor. We go back to the regional level. We're happy to invite Mrs. Stefania Leoni from ARTER, Attractiveness, Research and Territory of the Emilia-Romagna region, and she's coordinator of the European policies.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everybody. Let me bring the greetings of my region, Emilia-Romagna, northern of Italy, and let me also join to the thanks to AI-NURECC for the invitation, and also of the Bosniak colleagues for the excellent work done until now. So my task is very hard because I have to be very, very brief. So just some consideration in order to understand better the importance of the EUSAIR strategy and the implementation of the strategies in connection of the Interreg programs. So I'm working for the technical assistance of the Emilia-Romagna region, and I'm involved in particular Interreg programs. As you know, Emilia-Romagna region is managing authority of the IPA-Adrian program, and in the previous programming period, it has been the national contact point of the program MED, and actually it is also the vice president of the National Committee of Italy-Croatia Cross-Border Program. So I mentioned these three programs because they are concentrated in the Adriatic and Ionian area, and in particular for the involvement in implementation, of the policy objective 1 and 2. So that means in blue economy and innovation and environment issues. I don't want to, so you, next slide, please. Yes, I don't want to explain the programs because there are other sessions today and also yesterday they explained that, but just to mention the importance of environment, risk prevention, and low carbon economy, managing of risks, natural risks, and the blue economy in the world that are very, very important for this programming period. And how the strategy, the concentration of the European strategies are in the Adriatic and Ionian area. So it's very, very important to implement the goals and the aims of these strategies, of the EUSAIR strategies, but to pay attention not overlapping in action and activities in particular, and try to concentrate instead as well the activity and the action in the area, and try also to coordinate this a very good and important challenge to coordinate the action and the activity in between the different programs. Try also to capitalize and amplify the results and the actions that have already done in the area, and try to go on. Today we talk about the new strategy for the Mediterranean that probably in the future can be enlarged and include the Adriatic Ionian. So it would be a very good point to develop also with this programming period in order to work together the Mediterranean area and the Adriatic Ionian area. The big challenges for environment and blue economy, but also for social aspect are in the Mediterranean and include also part of the Adriatic and Ionian area. And for this reason, you can go on, sorry. So this is, the strategy and also the importance for our region to implement the goals and the action included in the Pillar 3, environment quality, where at the national and regional level, Emilia-Romagna coordinate the activity. And we follow all the process of the multi-level governance EUSAIR, and we try to, by implementing also the INTERREG program, to get the goals of the strategy, and to also to get the flagship that are the key and the priority themes and priority issues that we have to develop with the new projects for this programming period. And in particular, I talk about the strategic projects. So you can go on. Again. So, the IPADIO, I skip these slides because we don't have time, and the program and the area that is the same area of the strategy. So IPADIO is the principal program to implement the strategy, and this is the indicative actions foresee for the priority 1 and 2 of the program. You can go on, and as Eleni told before, the call is open right now, and is a targeted call. So in this programming period, all the INTERREG programs try to be much more targeting and be concrete in order to satisfy the needs of the territories and the needs of the citizen, and to be much closer to the needs of the citizens. This is another program that I mentioned before, that is INTERREG Euromed program. So all these transnational programs in this period enlarge the area of intervention, and enlarge not in the part of the seas, but in the inland part. So even if with the strategy we talk about blue growth and environment and the focus on seas, the issues of seas start from the inland, so rivers. In the future, we have to take much more into account of rivers on a rural area, inland area that are part of the problems that we have in the coast and we have in the sea. Also for the marine litter and the pollution, we have to start before. So okay, enlarging the inland part of the Europe, but the topics mentioned in the strategy are topics that are okay and they are good for also for countries that are not exactly on the sea. You can go on. Okay, the structure of the program that is very complex because different INTERREG programs for this programming period try to define different type of projects in order to answer to different needs. So we have standard projects, strategic projects, or territorial or thematic projects. As well, in this case, in order to answer to the different point and the different problems of the different areas. So it's very important, the strategic project, because the strategic project try to implement the flagship of EUSAIR and try also to deal with, how do you say, big challenges that are present in the different area. Another important aspect is to, as I mentioned before, to capitalize and to amplify the action, the partnerships, the experiences, in order to not to start from the beginning all the time, but to go on and to go on to build new partnerships, private and public ones together, and also try to balance better the partnership between the different area of Europe. In this new programming period, we have private partnership and public partnership that are financed at completely, so it's a novelty respect on the previous programming period. And another important point is to have to manage in a unique envelope IPA funds and European funds. It's the reason why you can really work together in a balanced way and involve in the same way IPA countries and European members, European countries. Italy, Croatia is the third program that I mentioned before. You can go on. So it's dedicated to blue economy and environment in particular, but not only, because all these programs have are dealing also with transport, mobility, and tourism also. But you know, this workshop is focused on, in particular, on green and blue. So you can go on. And I think it's we can go on because we skip and we have already done say this issue. You can see how the program, in this case Italy, Croatia, deal with the specific objectives that are present in the different pillars. So the great importance of the blue and the green pillar. You can go on. And you know, the innovation is a cross-cutting issues that follow all the topics of the programs, but also of the strategy. So I almost finished. Just one thing that related to the forum that are very, very important because we talk about territories. So territories are the basis of the success of our projects, of our strategy, and it's very, very important to amplify and to enlarge the activity in the territory by starting from the activity of the 3 fora, that we have cities, university, and chambers of commerce in order to cover the principal aspect of society of training, so to raise the skills that we have in the area and the economics aspect in order to develop together in a sustainable way. I conclude just to say and to remind that the strategy depends on us, because the strategy doesn't have the user strategy and the other strategies, they don't have any funds, any regulations, particular regulation, and any structure. So by using better and better our programs, European territorial cooperation programs, but not only, also programs as we mentioned before, Horizon Europe, for instance, but not only, we can also get our goals defined in the user strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Leoni. Last but not least, Mr. Vedat Sujit. So we tried to have some question and answer later on. From the Center for Economic and Technological and Environmental Department of 8th EUSAIR, Bosnia-Herzegovina. Thank you.
I will give and keep my promise, so I will be really short. So you are sitting already 90 minutes, so I guess you're already tired. And you are all the day overwhelmed with a lot of information, data, and so on. So I will just focus on the very brief ones. So I'm representing 8th EUSAIR, which is a consulting company, a private company, and not usual. So we are not the usual suspect within the Interreg programs. However, with our organizational and financial capacities, we proved to be a good partner in a couple of EU-funded projects, including the Adrian Med and others. So I will just briefly run through some of the parts. So first of all, I would like to welcome you to Bosnia and Herzegovina on my behalf, and I will just drop you one information which you will certainly keep in mind. So one fact, when speaking about coastline, etc., so Bosnia and Herzegovina is a very lucky country because we have more coastline per capita than India. So nevertheless, it's a short coastline, 22 kilometers. We have to think about our coast. So definitely is worth mentioning. So we are part of IPSA Group, which is a large designing company. We are one of the departments. So in total, we have 120 employees. So you can skip over with a tradition more than 30 years, etc. We do a different different fields of consultancy. So focusing on environment and energy, which are our main to focus business areas, but also we organize a lot of events, roughly around 50 events a year. Then we also have a laboratory which is accredited according to ISO 17025 for different types of measurements, and we have a fifth unit, you can go on, for representing of different brands in the field of health and safety and environmental protection. You can go on. I try to be brief in this part. Yeah, just go on. So our usual clients, including domestic organizations, but also international, especially international organizations like the UN organizations, EU-funded projects. So this is the bunch of our operations comes from these clients, but also we work a lot with the industry and with the private sector. Go on. So I will just focus on two projects, very quick ones, implemented within the Interreg Adrian. One is the past project, which is Porto di Mare, and we have one ongoing. I selected here. So Porto di Mare, Emilia-Romagna region was actually the lead partner, one of their departments on this project. The principal aim of this project was to establish and to create a geoportal with an open access, so everybody can access to it, extract data from different parts of the coast of the Adriatic-Ionian region, including Italy, Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Greece, and Montenegro. So in Italy, obviously, the coastline is much bigger than in Bosnia, so there are few selected case studies. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have the entire coastline. So just when Googling Porto di Mare geoportal, it will directly link you to the portal. Please, next slide. I just selected a few of the pictures just to visualize what's the purpose of it. So you can download, just next slide, please. Yeah. So you can extract different information, which can be used for planning purposes, for research purposes, whatever purpose you may need when dealing with maritime areas. Next slide, please. The second one is Smart River. in the previous speeches was mentioned how rivers impact also the maritime life, which is certainly a case. This particular project is not dealing with this aspect. It's more focused on flood prevention, but certainly can have consequences on also waste and etc. coming in the end to the sea. So this next slide is focusing on different pilot regions in different countries, including Bosnia and Herzegovina, and one of them is the municipality. Next slide, please. Of Iliash. So we mapped different zones within the municipalities with the flood risk and how it can be prevented. So actually it was a mapping exercise on one hand, and also developing an action plan on what to do in case of flood, but also identifying priority measures to prevent them in the future. So it actually it's still in implementation, this project. So I will just quickly switch to circular economy and our activities there. I like to highlight this. This is one of the graphs from the Circular Economy Gap Report, which was published in February this year by the Circular Economy. So as you can see from the graph, which might look complex, but it's actually not. So it's showing that our planet or our society is actually just 7.6% circular, so which is actually lower than the previous year. So even though we put a lot of effort in boosting circular economy, promoting, we are less circular in 2022 than 2021. So speaking about resources we extract from the nature, from minerals, ores, fossil fuels, and biomass, it's a huge amount of material, approximately 100.6 gigatons of material. So maybe it doesn't ring a bell to you, but it's actually material enough to build a Paris every week. So that's the amount of money we extract from the nature, and just 7.6% goes in the circle. So in Bosnia and Herzegovina, we face huge issues with circular economy, starting with waste management, although circular economy is not waste management, even though it's a big integral part. The vast majority, unfortunately, of our waste is being landfilled, and often is the case in sanitary landfills. So it goes above all also into the rivers, but also in other ecosystems. And also the other one is that we have a very low resource productivity, which is 5 times lower than the EU average. So we produce less money from the resources we take out of the nature. So this is a huge potential. So we, in one of the projects, we identified companies in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we identified 72 of them, which have their business somehow linked to circular economy. So you cannot find a company in Bosnia and Herzegovina or even in the region which is 100% circular economy oriented, but they have to some extent their orientation. And most of them work in the business model called resource recovery, which is one of the 5 business models like recycling, incineration, and so forth. The second slide, next slide, please. And also then we also made a criteria analysis, what are the most prominent sectors in circular economy from Bosnia and Herzegovina, and waste management, fashion industry, consumer goods, household goods, and constructions are the top 5 sectors with the highest potential for circular economy in Bosnia and Herzegovina, with different level of application of different business models. Next slide. So just to summarize very quickly, circular economy is present in Bosnia and Herzegovina, especially after the adoption of the Sofia Declaration, the signing of the Sofia Declaration and the Western Balkan Green Agenda. It was a Kickstarter for many organizations, not for ours, because we are working in this field for almost 10 years, but you can see by your eye, I would say, the emerging projects and initiatives on circular economy in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also on the Balkan level, Western Balkan level as a whole. So there is a huge potential to work on it, especially raising awareness of different stakeholders. Capacity building is a necessity for sure. And I think during the panel discussion, I will touch on a few of the points, so not to waste any more time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All speakers really brought to the table impressive projects and experiences. We have a few minutes. We try to invite all of you to ask questions to the speakers. We go around with the microphone just to be very smart and light. So please think any question you might have in the meantime, before giving the word to you. You will find all the presentation in the FAIC and I-NURECC Plus website, so the Forum of Adriatic Ionian Cities and the I-NURECC Plus project website. I have a question that any of the speaker can answer after the question from the audience, and it's from your experience, which is the greatest obstacle to collaboration for a more integrated and sustainable management of water resources, and so what could be the next step for it? Before, yes, please.
Good afternoon, Mirko Novakovic, member of TSG1, Blue Growth. I would like to ask Ms. Hadziani about her expectation. How do you expect that you will achieve as a Commission, as a Union, goals of further involvement of in inland waters into the new policy? How quick you can expect to achieve this goal?
Thank you very much for the question. Yeah, now I can see you. Thank you very much for the question, because I think it's a good opportunity to clarify that inland waters are not excluded, which means that in the programming, in the different program presented, the different funding schemes, you can find a lot of, let's say, areas, intervention areas, a lot of thematic priorities, a lot of objectives where you can see opportunity for cooperation towards relevant projects. Thanks for the question, because it's worth to clarify. And in terms also of the revision of the action plan of EUSAIR and your priorities, the interest of the countries, etc., it's good to clarify that there is always this room of cooperation towards this aspect in several programs and several funding schemes. Especially, yeah, of importance for the landlocked countries, exactly. And this is the case also for some countries in EUSAIR, but not only there, also in the other places around Europe and beyond.
So thank you. I also have a question to all speakers. Yes. Let's say that we are planning to organize a webinar, seminar on circular economy and aquatic resources and skills. May I ask all speakers just a few words about the focus we should put, the fields we should focus on? So digitalization, what kind of skills the regional authorities or the European Commission should expect us to focus on, or the universities, so that they adapt their curricula accordingly? Thank you. Starting from the Commission. Yeah, and then
okay.
A quick round.
Thanks. Well, very quick. Just to complement on what you said, I think it's important also to address that by upskilling, but also reskilling. We need new skills, but we also need to upgrade our skills. In terms of the maritime sectors, we should think how we can upskills in the terms of the traditional blue economy sectors, but reskilling in terms of the emerging blue sectors, which are something new, and we need new skills in several, let's say, types of people involved, or of the women. There was a call from European Maritime Fisheries Aquaculture Fund on women, on blue economy, skills, etc., etc. So upskilling, reskilling, thinking differently for traditional blue economy sectors compared to emerging ones. But this is also foreseen in the new communication.
Sorry, thank you. Yes, I would like to. I agree with Eleni in order to implement skills in order to find or create a new profile for the aquatic to deal with the aquatic resources, and as I told before, attention of inland's part of our territories, focus on the rivers,
and in terms of pollution, but in terms also to environment and adaptation of climate change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Skills. Okay, can you hear me? Concerning the skills, I would say that the question is not very precise because it depends, reskilling and upskilling, it depends where you want to go. So I think the market will define where you want to go, and in order to see which skills, then you have to see what kind of profession or which segment of the market you see yourself. So if you want to go to the tourism sector, it's a different set of skills. If you want to go to some other kind of sector, it's a different set of skills. So it doesn't have to do, it has to do where you want to go, and then you define the set of skills. Concerning about the previous question, somebody had a previous question, what is the biggest obstacle? I would say the biggest obstacle is that you have to believe that what you're doing. Believe it, because every time you have a problem that has to do with the environment, everybody says it's impossible to do in all the levels of politics. You have to believe it, you have to have leadership, then you have to you work technically and see what the solution is, and then you put the political capital to solve the problem.
So the market, and we close with the universities then, to see what the market needs and what the students should do.
Okay, so I agree with this. So we have to know where to start with. So definitely what we faced with within our projects and what are the findings working with a lot of, for instance, manufacturing industry, but I would say it can easily apply to all the other sectors, is that they don't know how to connect and cooperate with the other sectors involved, especially in the Mediterranean Sea. You have a bunch of different actors, which is also an obstacle, so that it's very hard to work with all these different actors and have a buy-in and get them all on the same board. So one of the issues, specifically answering to your question, is for instance, starting with the design. So how to help the SMEs or other enterprises to start thinking about product design, about system design, about process design. So these three elements could be very relevant in the way of reshaping, because a lot of them have a linear mindset, and you have to help them to start digging together with them. So what are their problems they are facing, and actually you don't have to provide the solutions for them, they will find them. So it's actually just popping out ideas out of them, and that's actually what we did here for a couple of companies in the manufacturing industry.
Thank you very much. The municipalities and then the universities.
Okay, so I would like to answer the first question from Eleni regarding the biggest obstacles in cooperation. And I would like to say what are our local biggest obstacles. The coast of Montenegro has 300 kilometers, and 340 kilometers of the coast that our municipality also belongs to are managed by a state company, integrated coastal zone company with headquarters in another city, also coastal city. And not only that, but this is just one example how the competencies between the state institution and our local self-government are mixing. And sometimes this cooperation definitely needs to be tighter and better. It exists, for example, the cooperation definitely exists. The municipalities is issuing opinions when any sort of development on our area needs to be done. And but everything that is related to this area, whether it is maritime affairs, aquaculture, fisheries, all these plans are brought at the state level, and then we are giving opinions. For example, if our citizen of our municipality wants to create a fish farm or maybe a mussel farm, he needs to go to several different institutions. He needs to go to the Ministry of Agriculture to get a permit, and then definitely to the Institute of Marine Biology to see if there's going to be any impact on the bay, which is closed, as I have said before. And also the third, the integrated coastal zone management, to obtain the permit to take up the part of a coast that they're managing for lease to do that activity. We as a municipality can give an opinion for that. We can even give some loans or credits favorable credits for that type of entrepreneurship, but we cannot help much our citizens to deal with other state institutions. So in order to perceive this area, marine and inland as a whole in terms of development, this cooperation needs to be tighter. That was just the point that I wanted to make. Thank you.
Yeah, regarding the universities, it's very important to have our role in the process. Of course, we are free to get new curriculums every year and every third and fourth year for every cycles of studying. Every year we can do 20% of changing new curriculums, improvements, and after 3 or 4 years we can do it totally with new subjects, new orientations, and it's reasonable that we have to improve the mindset of new generations of students to think about the community, the strategies, the environment. Our laboratories and departments has been established more than 20 years in the direction of environmental engineering, water treatment, air pollution, and that's the basis. The second one is scientific research, specialized laboratories with equipment to educate master and PhD degree students, and also related to the industry. And of course, the third field of interest is relation to the industry, because the most of our faculties are, of course, social and humanities studies, but technical studies are fully oriented to the industry and take their role in projects related to the water treatment, technical solutions, facilities, air pollution treatment, etc., etc. We have our role as University of Zensan and all universities, of course, in Bosnia and Herzegovina and wider. We have and must take the role in this manner. There is no obstacles in that point. We are free to do our best.
Thank you very much. So we should expect UniAdrian to coordinate, let's say, curricula that allow to meet the new trends in the market in the Adriatic-Ionian region, according to the different sectors that we discussed. We'll follow up. Yeah, this is what.
Just a small question here from for Mrs. Hatziani. Regarding the, I would like only to know if there will be also some initiatives, some initiatives regarding also circular marinas and circular ports, so connecting circular economy and the blue, and further on, since there was the topic of expanding the scope more inland, if this is mean also cooperation with also other sectors in the sense, and connecting also with other pillars. So, for example, if we talk about circular aquaculture and the pollution in the blue, then also connecting with big sources from the inland, like, for example, food system, and then a circular food system. If there's any initiative in this term.
To address your, let's say, comments. First of all, regarding the circular marinas, etc., what you mentioned in the beginning, well, I wouldn't say that there is a particular initiative on that particular, let's say, specific topic, but there are relevant initiatives. For example, the blue economy communication is one, let's say, of the policy elements. There are also some initiatives from DG Environment, like, for example, the one I presented on port reception facilities. So I wouldn't say that there is one particular so specific, but it's a topic which is a thematic priorities under several initiatives. Let's say a specificity, let's say a cross-cutting aspect which fits with, let's say, a lot of policy frameworks. I believe this is it clear like the way, right? And there are several thematic priorities under programs you can apply for addressing what we call smart ports, and this is also where you foresee circular marina, circular port, etc., etc. And regarding the second comment, it was again regarding the inlet waters.
Since in that case, the scope is expanding for the inland waters, so rivers and lakes, but it's also, I wanted to know where is the limit, if it targets also the sources, let's say, before they get to the water.
What are the limits of what?
The limits of the scope, in the sense if it will regard not only, you said that it will regard also river waters? Inland,
no, I said that the inlet waters are not excluded in a way that there are a lot of programs and a lot of funding schemes. You can also foresee this aspect. For example, I mentioned the Horizon Europe and the particular mission on ocean seas and waters. It's clear there that the inlet waters are included, which means that if you're interested for a river, if you're interested for a lake, you can find the particular relevant call, you can find the particular specific objective or priority, and you then identify the proper call you can apply for a project. There are no specific limits. I don't know exactly what you mean for limit. If you are looking for the terminology, what is inland water, this is clear. But if there are not limits, I mean, they're just included in different programs under different specific objectives and different thematic funding priorities.
Great. Thank you very much for the discussion. It was really, really helpful to have all the different perspectives, and some things came out. So thank you for your patience, for being here for so late. And you can follow up through the websites of the FAIC and AI-NURECC Plus. So please go visit and get back in touch if you have any further comments. Thank you to the speakers and the organizers.